Quite interesting feedback there. We now want to change gears a bit and talk about the property market in Mombasa. And joining me for that is none other than Mwenda Thuranira, the Chief Executive Officer of a company known as Myspace Properties. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kahara, for inviting me.
We want to get right exactly into it. And who exactly is Myspace Properties and what exactly do you do?
Okay, Myspace Properties is a real estate company based in Mombasa, 100% Kenyan owned. We have been in operation in Kenya, in Mombasa, for the last 3 years. And we have diversified this market. We have improved this market. Before we came in the market, nobody knew real estate existed in Mombasa. So everybody was doing it in his own Kenyaji way. But once we came into this market, I saw that it's about we get change in this region. For example, nobody was doing internet marketing. So that means nobody outside Mombasa knew, or outside Kenya knew what Mombasa is all about. We came with that. Nobody was doing exhibition. For example, the Mombasa Homes Expo, which is one of our initiatives to expose the market to the world. We came up with the first ever Mombasa Homes Expo, and we're still going strong. We are going to the 6th edition right now. We have had sponsors who are interested in being part of these events. Also, we have come up with a Unique Homes magazine, which is a magazine which we support. And with this magazine, we are able to educate the public on what the coast region, what Mombasa has to offer.
The landscape in Mombasa is really changing. New buildings coming up in almost every corner of the city. What exactly is happening down here?
Mombasa currently is booming. It's bumbling of activities, especially real estate related. If you go to every corner, you see construction. There are factories coming up, there are apartments coming up, mansions coming up, shopping malls coming up, something which has not been heard of in Mombasa for the last centuries. But now we have major companies which are settling in Mombasa. You see, before Mombasa, as far as real estate was concerned, it was a low-key thing. But if you see now, we have shopping malls which are coming up. Actually, we have around 3 of them which are coming up currently, which was never heard of before. And again, we have seen many people have opened their eyes to Mombasa, especially people who are investors, people who have been in diaspora. For example, a person who has lived in New York or London for years, that person would not like to come to stay in Nairobi. They have been in the first world for so long. But now, if they come to Mombasa, it's a more laid back, it's a more relaxed environment, which is good for them. After working very hard in New York or London or Tokyo, it's about time you come, buy an apartment, and enjoy life. I mean, we have seen foreigners have been doing it for years, but as Kenyans, we don't do that. Unfortunately, people end up like dying in their farms, like in Eldoret, in Meru. They end up living there for the rest of their lives without exploring what's beyond.
What is the single most factor that you attribute the changes that we are seeing in the real estate, the property market here at the coast?
For one, I would attribute that to the exposure Mombasa is getting currently. And I really appreciate Mr. Kahara for coming back to Mombasa today to see what we are doing here and telling the world what we are doing in Mombasa. So the more exposure we get in Mombasa, the more we develop, the more we'll be able to have proper infrastructure, the more we'll have big minds who would transform this city to a better city. For one, it's happening because of the exposure Mombasa is getting currently. Very few people knew about Mombasa, but currently with the kind of activities going on, for example, the magazine which are there for real estate now, the websites which are coming up about real estate. We're talking about the expo, the Mombasa Homes Expo. It's the first ever. There's never been a property exhibition outside Nairobi apart from Mombasa Homes Expo. And there's so much exposure. Everybody is now interested in Mombasa. And as you know, tourists, the first time they come to Mombasa, they like it. If you see they come second time, third time, they want to own a property. They want a piece of the action in Mombasa.
When you look at Nairobi, you know, the modernizing of the infrastructure has been a key part to the property boom and the construction boom that we are seeing in the capital city. Here in Mombasa, what exactly is it that is driving the construction boom and the property markets?
Mombasa, compared to Nairobi, here the infrastructure boom is not as much, but as you know, the way it happens in Kenya and many parts of Africa, it's buildings first, then the infrastructure. So we are really looking forward to have such infrastructure like what's happening in Nairobi, Thika Road, the Ruiru bypass connecting through the airport. You see, since like all these bypasses are coming up, you see developments are coming up from every corner of these bypasses. And as you see, Mombasa, the roads are in pathetic condition. We need more bypasses, we need more expanded roads, we need extra bridge at the Nyari Bridge, we need expansion of Kibarani, Makupa Crossway.
Is there more perhaps that could be done to improve our infrastructure here in Mombasa?
Infrastructure in Mombasa is in pathetic. It's in ICU units. We need somebody to come save us in Mombasa. Mombasa, like for example, if you go to Kingorani right now, the other route of leaving the city or entering the city, there are potholes which even a small car can't pass. Nyari Bridge, come in the morning when people are going into town to work. It's a nightmare. There is jam all the way from Bombolul, all the way from Nakumatinyali to town. When you are leaving in the evening, after a hard day's work, Mombasa before you used to leave in town in 10 minutes you're home. Let's say you live in Nyali. But right now it's a nightmare. There's so much traffic jam. So we really need a solution. For example, we can expand the Nyari Bridge. We can have alternative bridge. And again, we can use the natural resource which we have. If we can build the jetties, whereby we can be boarding boats to other parts of the city. For example, I can board the boat from Fort Jesus to Mtwapa. I don't need to be on the road. We have seen to cities like Venice, they use boat transport all around. It's something which we need to embrace since it's a natural resource which is there, and it will cost less to build a jetty than build a road. And again, all we need to have is water taxis. Educate guys on how to do that. And it's another business opportunity which needs to be explored.
You mentioned the issue about infrastructure, the roads are poor. What is the government doing? Are we seeing any major projects like the ones being witnessed in other parts of the country?
Actually, Mr. Kahara, in Mombasa, we have not seen any major infrastructure activity. And it's really something we are pushing for the government and for the right authorities to put infrastructure in place.
But looking generally at the entire infrastructure, well, what do you think are the single most priority areas that the government should start on to improve, the business and the construction climate here in Mombasa?
Basically, number one is the road. For example, the Nyari Bridge. Right now, getting out of Nyali in the morning is a nightmare. Getting out of town in the evening is another nightmare. So we need an expanded bridge, or we need an alternative way of getting in and out of town. Then number two, we need a sewerage system, which is not available in Mombasa in many areas, which is lacking, and with all these boreholes coming on, soak pits, it will destabilize the land in Mombasa. We need to stop doing quick fixes. For example, in Nyali, like Old Nyali, a road is put there within like 2 days, within a month. 3 months down the road, it rains, it has potholes again. So that means we are doing a quick fix, quick fix, quick fix. We need to come up with permanent solutions. And again, we need more bypasses. Bypasses which will open up areas. For example, if we can have bypass from Miritini connecting Mtwapa, we can have bypass which has been planned and people have been talking about it, the Dongo Kudu bypass, the one from Miritini to South Coast. I mean, it has not been worked on, but we're really hoping it can be done as soon as possible so that it can open up areas. All of us, we don't have to be coming to the city to do business. We can do business elsewhere. We need to decentralize the city so that we can decongest it more and we can open up more areas for development. No, we should not be clamped in Nyali on building high-rise apartments, in Tuda high-rise apartments, or Kizingo. We need to move to areas, for example, like Vipingo. We need to move to areas like Utange, Mwakirunge. We need to move to South Coast, Kwale. I mean, the land is vast, but without infrastructure, we are not going anywhere.
You've mentioned some of the services, and we know, be it water, be it sewer lines, be it power lines. If we all had these in place, what do you think would there be their impact on the property market here in Mombasa?
Here in Mombasa, Mombasa being located in the most strategic location in East and Central Africa, if the right infrastructure and the right services are in place, we will see Mombasa catch up with the other cities which are located as Mombasa is located. For example, Hong Kong, Shanghai, New York, Los Angeles, all these are port cities. If you go to Dubai and many other, all major cities, they are port cities. So I am seeing Mombasa rivaling all the major cities in East and Central Africa.
How serious is congestion and, traffic snarl-ups here in Mombasa?
Snarl-up at the moment, if you leave, for example, you leave your office at 5 o'clock and you live in a place like Nyali, be sure it will not be less than 45 minutes. I know for Nairobi people that's nothing, but in Mombasa we are not used to that. But at least 45 minutes to get to Nyali. And same thing in the morning when you're coming in. Those are 45 minutes, human working wasted hours and wasted fuel too.
Mombasa is emerging really as a hot business tourism destination. How do you think this is going to impact the property markets?
With the tourism booming in Mombasa and in the rest of Kenya, you'll see that there's something we are missing very much, something called conference tourism. Conference tourism can put Mombasa in a good place. Like for example, when we are off season for tourists, we can be doing conference tourism. There's a planned conference center, there's a planned game facility, which will bring new people to Mombasa. But the bed capacity in Mombasa cannot take, for example, if we have 60,000 people in Mombasa, we don't have that bed capacity to take that kind of crowd here in Mombasa. So it will mean more development so that we can build more capacity to take bigger crowds and become the conference hub of East and Central Africa, or even the whole Africa. We can hold international events, we can hold World Cup, we can hold Olympic, why not?
I have seen many universities and colleges coming up here in Mombasa. What does this really mean for this city?
That shows we have intellectual capital in this city. And that means more factories, that means more jobs, more human capital in this city, which will attract more factories, more companies, and more bigger ventures.
This region happens to be home to some of the UNESCO heritage sites. How will all this construction affect these historical pieces that are very precious to humankind all over the world?
All the historical sites, all the historical locations, they are protected by the National Museums of Kenya. For example, like Fort Jesus, Old Town, if you go to Lamu, if you go to Vasco da Gama Pillar in Malindi, they are all protected. Unfortunately, you can't do any kind of development unless just, for example, fixing it up so that it doesn't go down and maintaining it so that it can remain the same way for the rest of the year, since that's our heritage in Mombasa. It won't be Mombasa without that. Whenever you mention the name Mombasa, those are the pictures which comes in almost everybody's mind. And they are the things we need to protect. And I'm glad under the National Museums Act, they are all protected. Like for example, the Old Town, you can't do any new building. You can't just rehabilitate the ones which have been existing. And it's something which we should preserve. It has been preserved for the last 300 years. And it's good we keep it going and going and going.
A claim that keeps coming up in almost every other area in the country that you go around is that property is overvalued. What's your opinion about the property prices here in Mombasa?
Yeah, for example, I can say in Nairobi is way up, but Mombasa we are still not there. For example, an half an acre in Mombasa, in the prime area of Mombasa, for example, half an acre will cost you around 25 million. But half an acre in Kileleshwa, Kilimani will cost you 100 million. So we are way far. So that's why this is the best place to be in Mombasa. Being at the right place at the right time.
Finally, Thuranira, where do you see Mombasa City in the next 10-15 years in terms of construction and also in terms of the property markets?
Within the next 10 years, I see Mombasa being at the same location, the same status that cities like Dubai, Hong Kong is. If we do proper planning, Mombasa will be the first city in East and Central Africa and beyond. Since of number one, strategic location. There's no other city with a sea, and everything comes through Mombasa. So if everything comes through Mombasa, we need to use it here in Mombasa first before it gets to the rest of the country or the rest of the region. In terms of construction and property markets, I'm telling you, Mombasa is the place to be. If you want to invest right, if you like to be in a better place, for example, like, in the future, have a piece of Mombasa now. For example, I'll give you an example of like Miami in Florida. For example, from Jacksonville to Miami, Florida, you can't get a piece of beach property less than $1 million. But if you come here in Mombasa, for example, there are some virgin beach lands which has never been used. You can get a beach plot for less than 2 million Kenya shillings, which means this is the right place to be.
Mwenda Thuranira there, the Chief Executive Officer of Myspace Properties, giving us his insights into the whole issue of our property market here in Mombasa. And as we promised here on PM Live, for this entire week, we speak to business leaders here at the coast on how this city can even be enhanced, even to generate more wealth for the country. It's been a pleasure having you around on PM Live. My name is Kara Wenena. Let's do again this tomorrow.